I thought my biggest mistake was trusting my wife. Turns out, it was underestimating her capacity for betrayal. When I discovered Ruby's affair, I never imagined it was just the surface of her plan. The insurance policy, the poison water bottle, the mapped hiking route ending at a deadly cliff. She didn't just want to leave me. She wanted me dead. But she made one fatal error. She thought I was too weak to fight back. My name is Owen Donovan. I'm 38 years old. And until last month, I thought I had a pretty good handle on my life. I own a small chain of premium grocery stores across Maine. 5 locations that I built from the ground up after inheriting my grandfather's failing corner market. The business isn't glamorous, but it's mine, and I've always taken pride in providing quality products to my community. I work hard, keep my word, and until recently, believe my marriage was as solid as the granite countertops Ruby insisted on installing in our kitchen renovation last year. Ruby and I met 9 years ago at a food industry convention in Portland. I was there looking for new suppliers, and she was representing an organic wine distributor. She wore a deep burgundy dress that matched the Cabernet she was pouring, and when she smiled at me from across the room, I felt a jolt like I'd grabbed a live wire. Unlike the other vendors pushing their products, Ruby asked questions about my business, seemed genuinely interested in my plans for expansion. By the end of the night, I'd placed an order far larger than I'd budgeted for, and asked for her number. We were married within 18 months, and I still remember how my hands shook as I slipped the ring on her finger. Not from nerves, but from disbelief that someone so vibrant and sophisticated would choose a straightforward guy like me. What I didn't know then was that Ruby had a pattern. She was drawn to men who could provide something she needed, and once she had extracted it, she moved on to the next opportunity. I was simply too blinded by her smile to see the calculation behind it. The day everything changed started normally enough. I woke early, as I always did, to review inventory reports before heading to our newest location for a staff meeting. Ruby was still asleep, her dark hair spread across the pillow. I leaned down to kiss her goodbye, and she stirred slightly, murmuring something about meeting Devin for brunch. I didn't think much of it at the time. Devin Bradley was Ruby's new marketing consultant, hired to revamp our brand image. She'd been working closely with him for weeks on a new campaign. It made sense they'd meet to discuss business. What didn't make sense was the text message that flashed across her phone as I placed it on a nightstand after silencing an incoming call. Can't wait to see you again. Last night was incredible. Something cold settled in my stomach then, a weight that would only grow heavier in the days to come. I didn't confront Ruby immediately about the text. A part of me wanted to believe there was an innocent explanation, that Devin was referring to a business dinner or marketing strategy session. So I watched and waited, paying closer attention to patterns I've been too busy to notice. Ruby started staying late at the office, claiming the rebranding project required extra hours. Our newest store location was struggling with inventory management, so I was putting in overtime myself. Our schedules rarely aligned anymore, ships passing in the night. When we were home together, her phone never left her side. She'd even take it into the bathroom during showers, something she'd never done before. One Tuesday evening, I returned home early after a supplier meeting was canceled. Ruby's car wasn't in the driveway, though she'd told me she'd be working from home. I called her office on a hunch. "Hi, this is Owen Donovan. Is my wife still there?" "Mrs. Donovan?" "She left around noon," her assistant replied, sounding confused. Said she was meeting with the marketing team off-site. I thanked her and hung up, that cold feeling in my gut spreading through my chest. While heating up leftover lasagna, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "You should know what your wife is doing. Check the Harborview Hotel, room 412. I stared at the message, my appetite vanishing. An anonymous tip. It could be nothing, a prank, a mistake. But the precision of the details made it hard to dismiss. I paced the kitchen, debating my next move. This wasn't me. I didn't spy or sneak around. I believed in direct communication. But something fundamental had shifted, and I knew I needed evidence before confronting Ruby. 20 minutes later, I parked a block from the Harborview, a boutique hotel downtown where we occasionally hosted wine tastings for premium customers. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd first met Devin at one such event 3 months ago when Ruby introduced him as the marketing genius who's going to revolutionize our brand. At the hotel, I didn't have to sneak past reception. The Tuesday evening staff knew me well from our business events. I nodded casually to the concierge and headed for the elevators as if I belonged there. On the 4th floor, I walked slowly down the hallway, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. Room 412 was near the end, a "Do Not Disturb" sign hanging from the door handle. I stood there frozen, unsure what to do next. I hadn't thought this through. Should I knock? Try to listen? Just as I was considering retreating, I heard Ruby's laugh, that full-throated, genuine laugh I hadn't heard at home in months. Then I heard Devin's voice, low and intimate. "I've booked us that weekend away. Just told my assistant to clear my schedule. Owen thinks I'm attending a wine expo in Chicago," Ruby replied, her voice muffled but unmistakable. "He never checks my stories. Too busy with his precious stores." Something snapped inside me. I found myself raising my hand to knock when my phone rang loudly in my pocket. My store manager calling about an emergency delivery issue. I silenced it quickly, but not before hearing movement inside the room. I retreated around the corner just as the door cracked open, Devin's head peering out suspiciously. I left the hotel, hands shaking with a volatile mixture of rage and grief. Now I knew, and knowledge was a burden that would only grow heavier. 2 days after my discovery at the Harbor View, I decided to take a rare morning off. The lack of sleep and constant churning of thoughts were affecting my focus. I headed to Riverfront Cafe, a small coffee shop near our flagship store where I occasionally held meetings with suppliers. I needed neutral ground to clear my head and plan my next steps. I settled into a corner table with a black coffee and my laptop, reviewing financial reports but unable to concentrate. The cafe door chimed, and I glanced up automatically. My heart stopped. Ruby walked in, Devin close behind her. They hadn't noticed me behind my laptop screen, choosing a table by the window. For 20 minutes, I watched them together, noting the casual intimacy of their interaction. Her hand on his wrist, his fingers brushing her hair back, the private smiles that were once reserved for me. When Devin excused himself to the restroom, I approached their table. "Ruby," she startled, wine-red lipstick frozen against her coffee cup. "Owen, where are you? Shouldn't you be at the store?" "Clearly, we're both where we're not expected to be," I replied, my voice steady despite the thundering in my chest. "This isn't what it looks like," she began, the cliché falling flat between us. Devin returned, faltering when he saw me. "Owen, hey man." "Don't hey man me," I said quietly. "I know exactly what's going on here." Ruby's eyes darted between us. "Owen, please don't make a scene. Devin and I were just discussing the marketing campaign." "Is that what they're calling it now?" I asked, because from where I'm standing, it looks like my wife is having an affair with a man I'm paying as a consultant. A well-dressed man at the next table looked up, Peter Eastman, one of our biggest wine suppliers, who'd apparently been meeting someone at the cafe. His eyes widened in recognition. "Owen, Ruby." He nodded awkwardly. Ruby's face flushed. "Peter, I didn't see you there. This is Devin Bradley, our marketing consultant. Actually, I should introduce him properly. I've been telling clients he's my husband when we meet them. Saves explaining our working relationship." Peter's confused expression confirmed another suspicion. "Your husband? But Owen is your—" "That's exactly what I'm wondering," I said, my voice dangerously calm. Ruby has apparently been playing both roles. Devin finally spoke, his tone smug. "Look, Owen, your wife and I connect on levels you wouldn't understand. Creative people need each other. No hard feelings, right?" That was the moment something fundamental shifted inside me. When she took his side instead of mine, when she defended him to my face, I said the words that ended everything. "Then you can have each other. I'm done." I turned to Peter. "She doesn't represent my company anymore. Any business dealings will be directly through me." I walked out, leaving Ruby calling my name behind me, her voice growing smaller as the distance between us became permanent. The drive home passed in a blur. I pulled into our driveway, my driveway, and sat in the car, watching the late morning sunlight play across the house we'd bought together 3 years ago. Inside, everything would look normal, undisturbed, as if my world hadn't just imploded. I finally entered, the familiar smell of Ruby's vanilla candles hitting me like a physical blow. In the kitchen, I noticed the blinking light on our answering machine. Mechanically, I pressed play. "Hi, this is Carol from Massachusetts Mutual. Just confirming the policy changes Mrs. Donovan requested yesterday. The increase to $3 million with you as the sole beneficiary has been processed. Please call if you have any questions. I frowned, replaying the message. Life insurance? Ruby had changed my policy without discussing it. A cold dread settled in my stomach as I checked our joint account on my phone. Empty. Nearly $75,000 transferred out yesterday to an account I didn't recognize. I sank into a kitchen chair, the magnitude of the betrayal expanding beyond mere infidelity. My phone buzzed, Ruby calling. I declined. 10 minutes later, she burst through the door, looking flustered. Seeing me at the kitchen table, she paused. "Owen, you're completely overreacting," she said, as if we were continuing the cafe conversation. "What will people think? You embarrass me in front of Peter." "Where's our money, Ruby?" I asked quietly. She blinked, momentarily thrown off script. "What? $75,000. Gone yesterday, along with an unexplained life insurance increase. I transferred it to our savings account," she said too quickly. "And the insurance was a surprise. With the business doing so well, I thought we should increase coverage." "Stop lying," I said, surprising myself with my calm. "I've already called the bank. The money went to an account under Devon's name." Her face transformed, calculation replacing feigned innocence. "I was investing in our future." "No, you were stealing from me while planning something worse. What were you going to do with the insurance money, Ruby? Have me conveniently removed from the picture?" Fear flashed across her face, not of me, but of being discovered. In that moment, I saw her clearly for the first time since we'd met. "I want you out of this house by tonight," I said, "and I've already called my lawyer." After ordering Ruby out of the house, I spent the night making calls, first to my lawyer, then to a private investigator recommended by a buddy from my college football days. By morning, I had secured the house locks, frozen our joint accounts, and notified my store managers about the situation. I sat at my desk, methodically combing through our financial records. The money trail told a disturbing story. Ruby had been siphoning funds for months, small amounts that wouldn't attract attention, but totaling over $100,000. The life insurance policy change was the final red flag, too blatant to ignore. My phone rang. Dave Peterson, the PI I'd hired. "Owen, I've got some preliminary information on Devon Bradley," he said without preamble. "Guy's got a pattern. 3 previous relationships with married women, all wealthy, all ending badly. Was sued by one husband for business fraud, but settled out of court. Also found evidence he's been fired from 2 marketing firms for embezzlement. So he targets women with access to money." I said, the pieces falling into place. "Exactly. And here's the kicker. He's not even a legitimate marketing consultant. His credentials are fabricated. The references on his website? Paid actors." I thanked Dave and hung up, then opened my laptop to check Ruby's tablet backup, a feature she'd never bothered to disable when we'd set up her home network. There they were, hundreds of messages between her and Devon, dating back 6 months. I forced myself to read through them, each word a small betrayal. One exchange from 3 weeks ago froze the blood in my veins. "Ruby, insurance policy updated. Takes effect in 30 days. Devon, perfect timing for our mountain trip. Accidents happen on those dangerous trails. Ruby, he never checks the details of anything. Too trusting. Devon, one last loose end to tie up. The mountain trip. Ruby had been pushing for us to take a hiking vacation next month, something we'd never shown interest in before. I had reluctantly agreed, thinking it might help reconnect us. While staring at these messages, another text came through on Ruby's tablet. They were still communicating, unaware I could see everything. "Devon, he knows. Speed up the timeline. Ruby, no evidence he suspects the plan. Just the affair. Playing victim card now. We'll manipulate him into the trip. Stick to schedule." My hand steady, I forwarded all conversations to my lawyer and the PI. Then I called the police. This wasn't just infidelity anymore. This was conspiracy. When I explained the situation to the detective, she took it seriously. "Financial fraud we can act on immediately," she explained. "The conspiracy charges will take more evidence, but we'll start investigating." As I hung up, a strange calm settled over me. I trusted too easily, but I wouldn't make that mistake again. The man Ruby had married, the trusting, accommodating grocery store owner, was gone. In his place stood someone much more dangerous, a man with nothing left to lose. The detective suggested I maintain normal behavior while they built their case, but warned me not to confront Ruby again. I agreed, though every fiber of my being wanted to expose her scheme. Instead, I played a role, the wounded husband trying to process betrayal, unaware of the deeper conspiracy. Ruby moved into a hotel, occasionally texting to ask about retrieving belongings. I responded minimally, giving her no reason to suspect I knew more than I'd revealed at the cafe. Dave the PI called one evening. Bradley and your wife have dinner reservations tomorrow night at Vinifera, that wine bar downtown. Might be an opportunity to gather more evidence. I knew the place well. My stores supplied some of their inventory. I had a thought. I can do better than observe from a distance. I know the owner. The next evening found me in Vinifera's back office, watching the security feed with Marco, the owner. I appreciate this, I told him. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. After everything you did to help me start this place? No questions asked, Marco replied, his Italian accent thickening with emotion. Besides, I never liked the way she looked at other men, even when you were present. Ruby and Devin arrived at 8, taking a corner table. Marco had placed a discreet microphone nearby, technically for staff to hear customer requests in a noisy environment, but tonight serving another purpose. Their conversation started with mundane topics, but after their second glass of wine, they turned to their plans. Once the insurance clears after the accident, we'll have enough to start our own agency in California, Devin said, his voice low but clear on the feed. Ruby sipped her wine. And the stores? How quickly can we liquidate those? Your controlling interest combined with the right pressure from creditors. We could strip them for cash within months. My fist clenched. They weren't just planning my death. They intended to destroy everything I'd built, putting dozens of employees out of work. We need to finalize the hiking route, Ruby continued. Somewhere remote, but with just enough traffic that someone will eventually find him. Leave that to me, Devin replied. I've scouted the perfect spot. Steep cliff, loose rocks. A tragic misstep by an inexperienced hiker. I watched Ruby smile at this. The same smile that once made my heart race now chilled me to the bone. She raised her left hand to adjust her necklace, and I noticed with grim satisfaction. Her wedding ring was gone. Marco saw it too. Evidence enough? He asked quietly. More than enough, I replied, forwarding the recording to the detective. They won't see what's coming. The recording from the wine bar was the final piece the police needed. Detective Wilson called the next morning to confirm they were building a case against both Ruby and Devin for conspiracy, fraud, and attempted murder. We need time to secure warrants and coordinate, she explained. Can you maintain normal contact without raising suspicions? How long? I asked, already formulating a plan. 3 days, maybe 4. We'll monitor all communications. Don't confront them or mention what you know. After hanging up, I created a secure email account and contacted my store managers, telling them to prepare contingency plans for my temporary absence. I transferred emergency funds to a new account, gathered essential documents, and packed a bag with necessities. That afternoon, Ruby texted, "Can we talk? Dinner tomorrow? I miss you." Every word was calculated, designed to manipulate. I swallowed my disgust and replied, "Okay, your choice of restaurant." She suggested Gabriel's, an intimate French place downtown. Perfect for her purposes, quiet, dimly lit, easy to slip something into a drink. Perfect for mine too, public enough for safety, but private enough to record our conversation. Later, I met with Marco from the wine bar to retrieve a USB drive with the full recording. "Be careful, my friend," he warned. "La bella Ruby. She has cold eyes now." "I've noticed," I replied grimly. That night, sitting in my home office with the lights off, I watched our security cameras. Around midnight, a dark figure approached the side gate, Devin, wearing black clothing and gloves. He examined the lock, then moved to check windows, testing security for their backup plan. I recorded everything, sending the footage directly to Detective Wilson. My instinct was to confront him, to unleash the rage building inside me, but I held back. This wasn't about emotional satisfaction. It was about ensuring justice and my survival. I thought about the upcoming dinner with Ruby. What if their timeline had accelerated? What if tomorrow was my last chance? The police needed days, but Ruby and Devin might not wait. Decision made. I activated the home security system, then methodically removed and secured anything of value or importance. I tucked my grandfather's watch, the one he'd given me when I started the business, into my pocket as a reminder of why I was fighting. In my desk drawer lay Ruby's anniversary gift, a custom engraved pen I'd ordered months ago before discovering her betrayal. The engraving read, "To Ruby, my partner in all things. Forever yours, Owen." I left it there. That man, the hopeful, devoted husband, no longer existed. In his place stood someone stronger, clearer-eyed, and determined to survive. By dawn, my preparations were complete. I called my lawyer, updating him on the situation and ensuring my will was current. Not because I expected to die, but because I refused to leave anything to chance. If something happened to me, Ruby would get nothing. As morning light filtered through the blinds, I looked around at the home we'd shared. Every corner held memories now tainted by betrayal. But among the ashes of my marriage, something unexpected had emerged, a version of myself with a steel core I hadn't known existed. Instead of waiting for Ruby's dinner trap, I decided to set my own in motion. I texted her, "Need to clear my head. Taking a weekend hiking trip to Blackridge Mountains. Maybe what we need is time apart to think." Her response came quickly. "Hiking? That's a great idea. Which trail? Maybe I could join you. We could talk things through." Exactly as I'd anticipated. I replied, "North Ridge Trail. Starting from Overlook Point. Leaving Friday morning. Need solitude first, but could meet at Eagles Peak Saturday noon if you're serious about talking." This fabricated trail would send Ruby and Devin scrambling to adapt their plans, buying time while appearing to play into their hands. To complete the misdirection, I drove to the Mountain Ranges Visitor Center, parked my car prominently in the lot, and signed a hiker's log with my name and the fictitious trail. Then I slipped out through a service road in the rental car I'd arranged the previous day. By nightfall, I was checked into a small hotel in the next county under a different name, my actual location known only to Detective Wilson and my lawyer. From this secure position, I monitored the trap as it unfolded. At 10 p.m., my security system alerted me to movement in my house. The camera feed showed Ruby and Devin entering with her key, moving purposefully through rooms, seemingly searching for something. Devin carried a small bag that he handled carefully, containing their insurance for the hiking trip, no doubt. My phone rang. "Detective Wilson. We've got movement. Both subjects entered your property 7 minutes ago. We have officers in position, but need to catch them in a more compromising act. They're looking for my hiking gear," I said, "or adding something to it. Our surveillance team reports they brought several items into the house. We're documenting everything." An hour later, Ruby texted, "Just checking you're okay and still planning your hike. Found your gear bag in the closet. Looks like you forgot your water bottle. I can bring it Saturday." I smiled grimly at the screen. The water bottle, perfect delivery method for whatever they had planned. "We've got enough," Detective Wilson called back. "They added something to your water bottle and backpack. We're moving in." Through the security feed, I watched police officers enter my home, catching Ruby and Devin by complete surprise. Their faces showed shock, then panic as officers read them their rights. Devin attempted to flee through the back door, only to be met by more officers. As they were led away in handcuffs, I felt no joy, only grim satisfaction. Their plan had failed because they'd underestimated me, the quiet grocery store owner they thought would be an easy target. Tomorrow I would return home and begin rebuilding. Tonight, I allowed myself one moment of reflection on how close I'd come to losing everything, and how stepping away had ultimately saved my life. 2 days after the arrests, Detective Wilson called to inform me that both Ruby and Devin remained in custody, denied bail due to flight risk and the severity of the charges. The toxicology reports confirmed my suspicions. The substance they'd added to my water bottle was a powerful sedative that, combined with the steep hiking trails, would have likely resulted in a fatal fall. "We found detailed maps of the hiking area in Devin's car," she explained, "with a specific cliff marked as the primary location. They weren't leaving anything to chance. The financial fraud charges alone were substantial, enough for significant prison time. The conspiracy to commit murder charges would take longer to prosecute, but were supported by overwhelming evidence." I returned home, feeling like a stranger in my own space. Everything looked the same, but felt different. I hired a security company to change all locks and access codes, Then began the process of reclaiming my life. My lawyer arranged for me to visit Ruby in the detention center. It wasn't necessary for the legal proceedings, but I needed closure, to look her in the eyes one final time. The visiting room was stark, with a thick glass partition between us. Ruby entered wearing an orange jumpsuit, her usually perfect hair flat and dull. When she saw me, her expression cycled through surprise, calculation, and finally, a manufactured vulnerability. "Owen," she began, her voice trembling perfectly. "This is all a terrible misunderstanding. Devin manipulated me. I would never hurt you." I studied her, seeing clearly now what I've been blind to for years. "Save it for your lawyer, Ruby. I heard everything at the wine bar. I saw the texts. I know about the life insurance policy." Her mask slipped momentarily, calculation replacing desperation. "They have nothing solid. It's all circumstantial." "The sedatives in my water bottle aren't circumstantial," I replied evenly. "Neither is your recorded conversation about pushing me off a cliff." For the first time, genuine fear flickered across her face. "What do you want, Owen? Why are you here?" "I wanted to see you," I said simply. "The real you. Not the woman I thought I married, but who you actually are. I needed that to move forward." "Move forward?" She leaned closer to the glass. "I'm still your wife. I'm entitled to half of everything. My lawyer says." "Your lawyer needs to check the prenup more carefully," I interrupted. "The infidelity clause strips you of all claims. The conspiracy charge is voided entirely. You'll leave this marriage with exactly what you brought to it. Nothing." Her composure cracked completely, hatred replacing the calculated charm. "You think you're so clever. You were always pathetic, playing the reliable husband, so desperate for approval. Did you really believe someone like me could love someone like you without an agenda?" I stood, strangely grateful for her honesty at last. "Thank you for confirming what I needed to know." "Where are you going?" she demanded, panic edging into her voice as I moved toward the door. "To live my life," I answered. "Something you'll have very little of for a very long time." Her shouts followed me out, but they no longer had any power. Walking into the sunshine, I felt lighter than I had in years. The confrontation hadn't been about vengeance. It had been about facing the truth and finally letting go. The legal proceedings dragged on for months. Ruby and Devin both faced multiple charges: conspiracy to commit murder, attempted murder, grand theft, insurance fraud, and falsifying records. In exchange for a reduced sentence, Devin eventually testified against Ruby, revealing their relationship had begun over a year earlier, and the plot to kill me had been primarily her idea. Ruby maintained her innocence, claiming she was manipulated, but the evidence was overwhelming. When the verdicts came back, guilty on all counts, I felt no satisfaction, only relief that the chapter was finally closing. Ruby received 20 years without possibility of parole. Devin, with his cooperation deal, got 12. The financial restitution ordered by the court would never be paid in full, but that hardly mattered compared to the justice served. Throughout the trial, my grocery chain not only survived but thrived. The publicity, while initially challenging, ultimately brought community support. I focused on expanding our local supplier network and improving employee benefits, transforming personal pain into positive change. 6 months after the arrests, I stood on the observation deck at Blackridge Mountains, the real one, not the fabricated trail I'd created for my trap. Below me stretched miles of forested valleys, peaks rising in the distance like guardians. I'd driven up alone, needing to confront the place that had been intended as my final resting spot. "Thought I might find you here," a voice said behind me. Lisa Carver, my new store operations manager, stood a few feet away, holding 2 coffee cups. After the arrests, I promoted her to help reorganize the business. Her straight-talking efficiency had been crucial during the chaos. "Brought reinforcements," she said, "offer me a cup. Though I can leave you to your brooding if you prefer." I accepted the coffee with a genuine smile, something that had become more frequent lately. "Not brooding, just thinking about her," Lisa asked bluntly. "No," I realized with surprise. "About what's next?" We stood in comfortable silence, watching an eagle circle above the valley. Lisa had never treated me with pity during the ordeal, just practical support and occasional necessary humor. She'd lost her husband to cancer 2 years earlier and understood that healing wasn't linear. You know, she said finally, your grandfather's old market location is available for lease. Could be perfect for that community cooking school idea you mentioned. I turned to look at her, seeing not just a valued employee, but perhaps something more, a possible future I hadn't considered. Want to go check it out tomorrow? I asked. Absolutely, she nodded. Someone needs to make sure you don't make terrible design choices. As we walked back to our separate cars, I realized something profound. I was no longer defined by Ruby's betrayal. The man who had emerged from that crucible was stronger, wiser, and finally ready to build something new on his own terms. Life hadn't given me what I expected, but standing on that mountain, I could see possibilities stretching to the horizon, and for the first time in a very long time, I was genuinely excited to explore them.